Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. This week, we have none other than America's sales service coach, Joe Crisara. He dropped a ton of knowledge on us this week. He's got over 45 years of industry experience. Thad, what was your favorite part of this week's episode?
There were a lot. We kind of got into universal truths, and one in particular that I liked is when we have a problem that has arisen in our business, there's something that caused that problem to arise. And I really like the conversation around that.
Uncle Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's universal, that universal truth, I would say, that problems are going to come toward us because we're all going to have blind spots. But here's the thing we got to remember. Whenever we're trying to fix a problem, you know, as an owner of a business or anybody who's in a business, you're trying to fix the problem. Don't just fix the problem. Don't forget to document the solution, at least the bullet points, so that problem turns into an opportunity to create a permanent solution for the future. Now you're doing what you're mentioning. It kind of feathers into what Thaddeus just said. The problem becomes now something that's good, a blind spot we're fixing, so in the future it doesn't happen again.
That was an absolutely amazing part of the conversation. For me, my favorite was the conversation around exit interviews and the top 3 questions that you had, Joe, for when someone was leaving your company, not to ask them, but to ask yourself as the business owner. I love those questions, and I think you will as well. But we want to hear from you too. Make sure you leave a message in the comments, send us an email. Let us know what was your favorite part of this episode, and I know you're going to enjoy it too. Enjoy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers. Joe, thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome back.
Here we go. Thank you so much, guys.
You get both the Canadian boys this time. Last year, Joe came on the show. It was such a pleasure to have a conversation with him for the first time, but I had to do so by myself because Thaddeus was busy being with his wife while she was having their first child. This year, we made sure that he was still around for us, and he was able to join us too and hop in on this conversation with you, Uncle Joe. For those of you who do not know Uncle Joe, he's been in the industry for 45 years. He has run businesses within the trades. He has coached and made a massive impact on the trades with his coaching and training business, Service MVP, or contractorselling.com, as it was formerly known. He has made a massive, massive impact on this industry, and he does it all with the highest integrity, which is why I am super excited to welcome back Joe Crisara. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me again. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you to Thaddeus for finally making it here. I mean, geez, I was
Right?
I got 50% value last time, but I appreciate. No, I think here's what I want to say to Thaddeus. Thank you. Your family is fortunate to have someone like you who would take off your professional life and give to your family, which is really the number one service you offer to society. So thank you so much, Thaddeus, for taking care of your family. And I'm sure they definitely appreciate you.
Well, well, they definitely do, but it also brings up an interesting conversation, right? You know, and this is something that we had from a previous mentor of ours. You know, people always say, "Well, I would be a good father, but I'm building a business," or "I would be a good business owner, but I'm a family man first." Well, no, flip that paradigm, and you can do both. You just have to organize and prioritize your things accordingly in your life to be able to say, "Okay, well, what's the most important to me?" And then also be able to manage and do both of those, right? And so, like, I feel incredibly blessed to have a wife who is super understanding, but also a schedule that is super flexible. You know, I look at some of our things that we do, like if I need to leave at 3 p.m. in the afternoon because we want to go for a dog walk with the kid and it's sunny and go to the river and enjoy our afternoon, well, guess what? I have the ability to be able to do that, but then also come back later in the evening once everybody's in bed and then get my work done that I needed to get done. So it's a nice balance. But when you do balance, it makes things a lot easier in your life.
Yeah, I think also when you have a love for your family and a love for your the business you're doing, you know, both things are a joy, really. So I think that's, what people get from you is, I've noticed from the clients I've referred to you that they're joyful in the interaction they have with you and Evan, and you guys both do such a great. So thank you both for doing such a great service, which is, you're transparent to the HVAC community, and you're not hiding behind some office somewhere where you're not. This is a lot for you guys to do, and I appreciate the service you offer by making your service transparent so people can easily find you. Right.
Awesome. Well, appreciate those kind words.
Great. Yeah. That's it.
And right there is lesson number 1 from Joe Crisara. The first interaction that you have with a guest, make sure that you are showing gratitude and grace for them, make them feel good, and compliment them before you get into your sales call. So there you go. Lesson number 1.
Well, it's only the truth. It's only the truth. It's easy to speak the truth there, guys. So Evan, you know that, right?
Absolutely. You got to compliment when it's genuine and when you're sincere, and you did just that. Yep. So thank you.
I don't want to have any regret. I won't have any regrets like that.
Right. And we even said before, you talking about our Facebook group, and you're like, I hope it's okay that I post stuff in there. We're like, absolutely, because you yourself are constantly providing value to individuals with your content that you put out there. So I do want to say thank you for that, because not a lot of people that are in your situation and what you do, being a sales trainer, want to give some of that stuff away. They want to hide it all behind a paywall. So thank you for taking that out and doing those sorts of things to be able to give back and help people out.
Well, it's my pleasure, and it's my marketing, which is to create content. I always say, for everything I give you, there's 10,000 things that it will create questions about after I give you the one thing. And those 10,000 questions, that's where the investment starts to take place. But the truth is that there's, it's like you guys could teach people how to get a website done. It's like, well, who's going to do this? Like, oh, we happen to have a thing that does it. So it's like, you can't go wrong with teaching people. There was a company I remember in Chicago called Airwise back when I was younger, and they would sell AC and furnaces directly to the public, and all the other contractors would pull their hair out. Like, how are they selling this stuff to the public? They're advertising in the Chicago Tribune. Buy your own and do it yourself, right? And I actually got to know the guy who owns the place after I quit. And I was always pissed my entire career with this guy. Like, he's always in the paper giving systems. And then I went as a consultant. I went to go visit him. He called me, said, "Hey, I need your service." I went and go visited him. And it turns out it was just a marketing ploy. Like, what he did was invited the public in for free to take classes on HVAC, and you could buy our equipment and the tools and everything. You could rent the tools from us. After you got the equipment, the tools, and the education you had to buy, you could say you could do that, or you could just get a new system from us and let us do it. And he said nobody ever bought their own. Although he advertised he advertised to get consumers to come in to get educated. They wound up leaving with a new air conditioning system and with a sales call with somebody there. So I never realized that it was a marketing thing. And I'm like, man, I could learn from that. And that's one of the things I learned from is that, yeah, you could give this education to people, but then doing it is something else. And that's where, we're the only, service MVP and contractor selling. We're the only coaching group that onboards and orients your team for you. So we have 72 videos. We orient and onboard teams. We have, like, every week we have 20 to 30 people graduating our classes on a rotating basis, and both service, sales, office, and leadership. And so it's a done for you. We teach people how to do leadership, or we can just do it for you, and then we can just orient. That's our biggest lift we do. And so telling people how to train people is one thing. Teaching people how to train somebody, I love doing it because I love training people. But people are like, "Can you do this for me?" I'm like, "Well, absolutely. That's what our service actually is, to do it for you." So that's why I have no problem being transparent and teaching everything I know, because there's teaching it and then there's doing it, and then teaching it is free. Doing it costs, and it's an investment. Let's put it that way, right? That's how I look at
Absolutely. it. There's an old mentor of mine that always, every time I was giving a message to other salespeople, to other competitors within the company, we're all trying to win awards and win trophies and sales contests and things like that. We always said, give away everything you've got, because 95% of the room isn't going to implement it anyway, and the other 5%, they were going to figure it out anyways. So you may as well be on their side when they figure out something that you don't know, so that they want to give it back to you as well.
Yeah, and the 5% who already figured it out and like, oh my God, this guy knows what I'm doing. Then you
Yeah.
got credibility. You got credibility with them too. They're like, yeah, if I'm going to hire somebody, it's that guy who knows that inside thing that I know. So
Yep.
you're right. That's it doesn't hurt you, and there's really nothing that hurts because even the people who don't know and try to implement it, like they're going to get in trouble and then call you. It's just like the people who try to do it themselves. We all seen in the contracting business, people try to install their own toilet and then they crack the toilet and then they call a real contractor to fix it.
Right.
To fix it and things like that. So I'd say 90% of the service contractors' jobs are somebody who tried it before and it didn't work out, and that's it. So it's very similar. So it relates to all businesses, not just mine and yours, but even for the service business. Don't be afraid to like you get that diagnostic fee. That's not an important charge on that. It's like we'll go out there and look at it and diagnose the whole system. It's like, wow, if you really had to charge for that, it should cost $2,000. But if you did it for $99, it's like you're giving away some time there. And that creates an obligation. Really, what it does is the law of obligations, the science behind it, is that you're doing something without the expectation of return, and then people feel like that's so nice that he would give me this information. I owe it to him to at least look at what they've got, and then when they look at it and they like it, they sell themselves in a way. Does that make sense? That's really what I teach, is to let people sell themselves, not to push or sell people into things. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yes.
absolutely.
So the person that's just in our comments there, can I ask a question or two? Yeah, put them in the chat, and we'll see if we can what the timeline is for the question. But you look at doing things yourself, right? You like the toilet. I was thinking of an example that I had the tank off my toilet because I was painting behind the tank, and I'm like, well, I want to actually just have it seamless, so I took the tank off. But when I put the tank back on, I cracked the bottom of the tank. So fuck, and so I had to go buy a whole new tank and put it on. And this time I made sure that I did not turn it too tight. But the other part you got to sometimes ask yourself is, as a business owner, when let's use marketing as an example, people are like, well, I can go on to YouTube University. I can learn how to do it myself. Great. Well, do you have more time than you have money, or do you have more money than you have time? And so looking at that, but also knowing, okay, well, what's my expertise? What am I good at? And I think about a business owner, and you do a lot of training and things. How can one define what their expertise is? How can they figure out what their strong suit is in their business? And then how can they find out how to delegate the ones that they're not strong at in order to be able to grow their business?
That's a good point. I think it's I look at it from my standpoint as the things that it makes my stomach hurt when people try to get me to do it. What I want to see with my financials, for instance, is, 4 things. I want to see the total revenue for the week. I want to see what's the direct cost of doing the jobs this week we have, materials and labor, and then what is our overhead, and then what's our net profit. That's all I want to see. Now if one of those things seem off, then I'm willing to dive in and give the accountant, my financial people, some assignments. Hey, bring this number back to me. How do we come up with this number? Let me look at payroll. Bring that to my desk or whatever. So that's a delegation of something I hate doing. Like if you ask me to enter in numbers to a computer, I'm just going to be like, I'd rather do anything than that, right? So, but I found it in my business. When I had my business back in the 80s and 90s, when I became successful, I realized that what I'm doing now is the thing that's why I sold the business. I'm like, I could make a lot of money, more money with the heating and cooling and plumbing business than I am actually making back when I first started doing consulting. Now I've caught up. I'm doing just as fine or better than I would have done then, but truthfully, it was giving up current income based on the passion I had. And I said, well, if I'm passionate about it and I love doing it, there's got to be a value to it, because if I love doing it, there's other people who probably would love to receive it in a way. And so I said, I just got to find the right way to get to the market so they can receive it in the way I love giving it to them, right? So when it came to heating and cooling and plumbing, I just definitely love doing teaching and training and developing. I'd love to see somebody start out who's untrained and unknowing, doesn't know how to communicate, they're afraid of money, they have no goals in their life, and take that person and give them a firm direction. You see their life change. 3 years later, the guy's buying a house on a golf course, right? And you're like, that's what I love. I just had a chill on my spine when I just said it, actually, because I can think of hundreds of people I've done that for, and that's the service I love. It's I say, money's not my master, is my quote I always say. It's about pure motive service, which is if I make a positive impact on the life of other people, there's a value you're creating that you can't. It's priceless. Truthfully, you can't put a price on it. Although we actually wind up putting a price on. You have to put a price on it, so we do put a investment on it. But truthfully, it's something that most people don't worry about the investment. Once you hire somebody who's got a passion for what they do, you can feel like the energy just pulls your company forward. Whether you're hiring a provider for your company or you're hiring a provider for your house, it all of a sudden emerges that it's worth it. That's the quote unquote, yeah, it was worth having that guy because he just loves what he's doing, and I love to observe somebody who loves what they do doing it. So I think it is important you find your passion because if you're doing something you hate to do, it's going to be exposed pretty quickly, and it loses value too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, two things I think you're exceptional at in yourself is one, conveying value. So both the value that you're able to create within your organization for others, but also helping to teach others how to convey value for themselves. And two, I think you're amazing at over delivering on the value that you convey. And I think that's a big reason why you're having the impact that you are within the industry. The question that we did get, you're welcome. So they're looking for their first technician, looking for their first hire, but they keep getting candidates who have no experience and they're not wanting to put in the work to start off in order to make the big bucks. Is this something new? Was the first question. And then the follow-up being, should they just train someone from scratch as opposed to looking for an experienced technician? So what are your thoughts on this?
Man, that is a really great question. So I give you kudos on that one. Truthfully, every company, you start out being, if you're in the HVAC business or whichever trade you're going to belong to, you start out saying, I'm in the HVAC business. But then you realize that as soon as you hire your first employee, you realize that you're really in the educational business. Because every employee has a right to these three things: training and graduation, to make sure we train people to do what we want them to do, to operate the way we want them to operate, whether it's diagnosing technically or communicating with customers, soft skills, right? There's a way we got to train on both ends of it. So no matter who you bring in, so here's the key thing going to that question. Let me ask him a question. The question is, would I rather spend time with somebody who's done it a different way for 10 years, a different company, and make them unlearn what they've learned for 10 years, make the effort to tell them to wash your mind down to nothing? Am I likely to get somebody who's been doing it 10 years and tell them, I want you to forget everything you learned for 10 years and learn this new way? Or take somebody who never learned anything and then teach them what you want them to do? What do you think would be faster? Having somebody unlearn it and then teach it? Because even the old guy is going to have to learn your new system, whatever it is, whether it's software, whether it's the way our company operates in inventory, whether it's the way we communicate. Are we going to spend the time to unlearn with people and figure out how we're going to get that person broke down to nothing and then build them up again? Or just take somebody who always started with nothing and just take it from there? So it really takes 50% of the effort to take somebody who's brand new and teach them, rather than somebody who is experienced and try to teach them, because the effort to keep them from trying to go back, magnetically being pulled back to the way they learned for 10 years to begin with, is the tough thing. And you guys are probably even in your business. You might hire a programmer or hire somebody who does stuff and they got their way of doing it. But then there's the Evan and Thaddeus way. And they're like, dude, this guy ain't going to work out. He keeps doing stuff janky, and we don't do it janky here. We do it with excellence. And so you're both like, yeah, and you tell him, and he's just not getting it. And you're like, well, I don't think it's going to work out. And because you see, they're more committed to the way they learned the first time. So yes, you have to be able to, I say training people from scratch is better. I would overpay for somebody who's got a good value system that I believe in. As a good person who is on, you can question him about responsibility. Does the person take responsibility for their own failures? Are they more of an optimist? Are they an optimist? I'd rather have somebody who's an optimist, who takes responsibility, who has no experience in what I'm doing, and then teach them, because I know I'll be within 3 months, I'll be able to get them to do something that's productive, rather than trying to, because 3 months would have been spent on trying to get somebody who already think they knew it all, to get them to convince them that they don't know what we're trying to do and do it that way. Makes sense? So I hope that long-winded explanation is that the answer is yes. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. One of the things that I wrote down when you're talking about that is hire slow and fire fast. And when you have somebody, especially in this situation with being your first tech, and I'm going to paraphrase because I haven't hired a technician. I've hired people into other businesses, but not necessarily a technician role. So obviously some technical components of that. And I understand, hiring somebody that has a little bit of experience, but when you look at that, but you need them to have a good attitude. And that was kind of the response on there is, you want to make sure they have a good attitude and a good mindset. And that's why, hire slow and fire fast. And so if you create this great organizational culture where somebody is going to naturally either A, they're going to fit in, or B, they're going to want to try to fit in, but they realize that they're not genuine to the culture and they're just going to leave on their own. You can then create that attitude, but it all starts in the hiring process, and it all starts in the ads that you're putting on, or where you're finding them, and what you're talking to them, and your procedures and your processes that you have in place for there. So definitely, with that in terms of the individual asked that question, keep that in mind as well, right? What you do is what you attract too. So if you've got a great attitude and a great culture for yourself, it's gonna naturally attract those sorts of individuals as well.
Mm-hmm. And then, what I would say is that, everybody's got flaws. Everybody's flawed, so we're all humans. We're broken toys that we all get together and play together. But, the biggest thing we got to remember is that there's the good part of people. I think the optimistic nature of so I would say look for somebody who has gone through significant challenges. Maybe they have a family member who's autistic, or somebody who's got something you find they had challenges. Maybe their mom passed away and parents passed away when they're younger. People who have had challenges, those challenges, and they're still optimistic when you talk to them, and they see a bright future for things and people in general. Those are the kind of people that that's really it, right? Because that's like, I can teach somebody like that because they can see that. And I'll just go back to what we said before. Here's the biggest mistake that hires do make in that situation when they hire their first tech is they think that they can continue to work like they were working, and he can just go to work and do what he does. Truthfully, as soon as you are an owner with an employee, you are now the trainer. So every time you do a job, it's important you bring that employee with you, or you teach him a lesson from that job you did. So you don't do anything in your company when you have employees that's not training, because the leader is only involved with training, not doing the work. So if you hire an employee, my advice would be, so you're answering the phone, you're doing the work by yourself when you start out. You hire a guy to do the work, you make him ride with you for 30 days or 90 days to make sure he does what you want him to do. The first time you teach him, then you watch him, and then you make him do it himself. And then you say, okay, I got somebody in the field doing that. Now I'm answering the phone still. Let me hire somebody to answer the phone. Same thing. You got to sit with them. You got to answer the phone and show them what you want to do, follow the script, make sure they do it. And you got to teach them how to do that, right? It's not a given. Don't assume employees. I would say 2 words I can bring to you: assume nothing. When you own a company, you have to make sure that every single thing, inspect what you expect, because I guarantee that if you think it's going to be fine, it is not going to be fine. Yep. It's going to be burn the house down. So,
and here's something to add on to that. As you're teaching them, document the shit out of that. And the reason that I say document the shit out of that is because when that person inevitably leaves, and I'm not saying if, I'm saying when, because people will move on. There's attrition in employees and everything in business. So if you document that teaching process, or you record somehow, some way, some shape or form, you can then compress the amount of time that you actually would spend on your next hire when they come on board, because you've already got everything in place. And the other part of that too is then when you document everything, you then might be able to find things that you were doing incorrectly that you can change, because you're actually documenting it and making sure that that is part of your process when you train these individuals, because then you get a bulletproof standard operating procedure in a sense for future growth.
I completely agree with you, and I definitely believe that. I'm uniquely qualified in that, because actually when I first started doing consulting, I had documentation for my stuff. But here's what I'll give everybody good news: we have documented material on HVAC tech training, or office staff, CSR, dispatch, financial, so all that stuff like that. But here's the thing about it: those are all just like the bones, right? And everybody does it a little different, but you got to say, well, here's benchmarks we know we got to have, or priorities for that job. So here's how you can start. So when you're documenting, don't just try to write a book on it. Just say, like, okay, what are the bullet points of diagnosing a system? I'm going to inspect. Number 1, inspect ductwork, inspect the size and capacity of the ductwork and for leakage. Number 2, inspect the refrigeration system. Number 3, the electrical. So you're creating, here's our diagnostic by just saying the bullet points first. And then, here's a key thing is good that, yes, the brilliant thing I learned is that for those owners out there saying, I don't got time for that stuff. I say, I know you don't. That's why you have what's called now an employee. Make them document it. Like you say every time. Here's what I did when I ran my business. I got involved with the Michael Gerber EMIT stuff back in the 80s or back in the 90s, and I just said, he said you got to document everything. So you're right, but I'm not good with that. So I said every time I had an employee talk to me, I said, write this down. Hey, the truck broke down. What do I do? I'm like, get your notepad. Why? Because I'm going to tell you what to do, and I need you to write it down so we can make this into a procedure about how we're going to make a policy on this. So write it down. You're going to help me with this. Who's going to do it? You're going to do it. You're going to write it down and just make bullet points. Number 1, number 1, put road flares out so we don't kill the guy out there. Number 2, stay inside the truck. Don't run around the highway, right? Number 3, call Ernie's Towing and get him out there. So this is before the internet and stuff like that, right? So today I would say get an Uber and get the hell out of there and get back to the office, right? So you'd have like a bullet point on when things happen. So every time so here's the thing: problems that are brought to us inside of a business. And Thaddeus, and you're the caller of the show here, Thaddeus, because you brought this up. So thank you. This is really document when you're fixing a problem that's an emergency, so that next time it's not an emergency, it's just a process we now do. So you turn that emergency into something that's good. You're like, oh, this is a gap our company has. The truck broke down. Nobody knows what we do with it. Oh, thank God your truck broke down, because now we can have a process that everybody's going to benefit from. And we can even give the employee the benefit, like say, get up in front of everybody, you teach everybody this thing that happened. You wrote the process, you teach what you wrote. That gives the employee self-esteem. It lets them be the hero in this little play, this docudrama we had going on about the truck breaking down. Otherwise, it's just a pain in the ass when that stuff happens. We don't make that into an event, a learning event and documentation event that he can take ownership of. And we can say in the future, oh yeah, ask Billy. He wrote the policy on that. He'll tell you. So instead of now coming to me, they can go to Billy about it. We had that policy written. So there's a lot of benefits in there. I hope you hear it. I hope you get a lot of gold nuggets there. I hope you can get out of that, because every business, when we have this like feeling like, oh crap, why do I got to do this? And I'm saying to you, yes, I'm wondering why you do have to do it when you have a $20,000 payroll. Why isn't an employee doing it? Or why don't you at least have them document it while you explain? You're going to teach them what to do about it. Make sure somebody else is writing it down, at least in bullet points, so you can now make a policy out of it, so that this becomes something that's normal operation business operation.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is that when you have those bullet points down and it happens again, we'll now review those bullet points to say, or have your team review those bullet points to make sure that it's still accurate, right? Just because you did it once doesn't mean that it's done forever.
Sometimes you get new technology too. Like technology comes in, it's like, oh shit, look at this thing, Joe. You mentioned you still got the word beeper in the.
I was going to say you just pull out the yellow pages from your glove box and switch to the towing section.
It's like, in my business books I still give those books out to people. It's like, look at this shit, Joe. You still got the word beeper in here. It's like our messaging beeper or whatever. I'm like, oh, look at that. Everybody's like, what the hell's a beeper? I'm like, back then it was like the way we communicated. But funny, isn't it that you're right. The document, it becomes kind of funny when you go back and look at something you created, and then you say, oh yeah, we updated our technology, we changed the way we operate. We got to change that system as well there too. Good point there. And it could be somebody else's job. It starts out as like the person in the office does all the jobs. Then we have an inventory guy. Maybe he'll start doing the trucks or something like that. So yeah, you have to now divide those jobs up that we're trying to do to create higher quality in the organization. Good point.
I love this conversation because it was something that I learned early on when I was in sales, which was, an objection is a symptom of a presentation that needs to be resolved beforehand. This is a very similar methodology, now taking it to being the business owner, and problems that come up are symptoms of a procedure that isn't properly implemented. I'm curious how you would go about teaching someone how to reframe these setbacks, problems, failures, fires that they have to put out so that they can start to change their view of them, so that they can now take action on it, be proactive, create something new, as opposed to being frustrated and pissed off and drinking more alcohol.
Yeah, well, Evan, that's a great comment actually, because I think you've kind of hit a universal key to life, which is anything. Like, you can say, I'm getting older and I don't have like I'm not as strong as I used to be when I was younger, right? And the reason you're not as strong as you used to be is not because you're older. Old people can be strong too. The problem is the older you get, the more entitled and the more like the better I am, the more riches I have, more or less, I can treat myself to better parking spots. I can take an elevator as opposed to the stairs. I can buy a bigger meal. I can sit down at a restaurant so I have to go down the run. So there's things that I become more entitled with. So I stop moving more. I stop working out more and do it. So that's what makes me weak, not the lack of activity. So going back as to why am I weaker now? It's not that. So any kind of a problem were brought to us, you're right. The universal truth is there's something earlier that has caused a problem that we haven't prepared for. We weren't smart enough to think about it. We never had the problem yet. So it's the first time. So, give yourself the forgiveness to say, listen, we can fix anything, but you have to go back to the beginning, and you might have to. So it may not be maybe an instant fix that somebody else can help you with, but then you might have to do it for yourself to get stronger. Go back in the beginning and get better at it, or work at it more, and maybe work out more with it, whatever it is. So that's a really good comment there. But so I think that's the thing. One of those universal truths that whenever there's a problem now, probably is a symptom of something that we did not prepare for earlier in our life in some way, whether it's in business or even in our relationships with our spouses and stuff like that.
Well, and I think it's also important to recognize that to give yourself some grace in that moment, because shit happens and you have to give yourself some grace and recognize that, hey, you know what, I couldn't control what just happened to me, but I can control what I'm going to do about it moving forward.
Well, we started out with 5 employees here about 2 years ago. We had me, myself, and I, 7 years ago, but 2 years ago we had 5 people. Now we got like 18 people. Recently, last week, one of my top key people came to me and goes, I feel completely unsupported now. You're not, he hit me with some hard medicine with me. And I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? You're completely right, because I've been so busy trying to get the other 18 people, other 17 people move in the right direction that I forgot about you. I kind of took for granted that you goes, I feel like I'm a tool that's being used, he told me. And I'm like, wow. I said, I don't want you to feel that way. I said, well, let's go back to, all I can tell you is that I hope you forgive me, because that definitely is true what you're saying. And I always say when people come to you and say they felt disrespected or unsupported, or there's a certain feeling they have about their job, I always say that's true. You can never say you shouldn't feel disrespected or you shouldn't feel unsupported. That's not true. When somebody feels something, it's always true for them. It's their point of view and not yours. You can't disagree with it. But I always say that take responsibility, as I did. Doesn't mean I'm going to get instant forgiveness. I can't really ask for that, because asking for forgiveness is something I'm doing for myself. I just say, I'm not going to ask you for forgiveness right now. I'm going to show you that I'm going to take action. We're going to start scheduling our regular meetings again, so you do feel supported. And that's my fault. That's my fault, because I'd blown off some of those meetings, truthfully, because I thought you had it in the bag. So those are things that even at my level, I think I'm teaching this stuff, but it still happens here, right? It's like it happened last week. So I mean, it doesn't. Nobody's immune from it, and you should, to forgive yourself and say it's just the fact, the way it is. This is the way it is. We have to move forward. I have a choice of looking at the negativity of the situation, or being an optimist and saying, what can I do about this to start showing people by my actions that I'm going to do something different, right? And that's the depth of a leader, is somebody who doesn't talk about getting better. It's somebody who schedules it and starts getting better, and starts creating, fixing relationships, or fixing the things they're trying to make better in their company, the processes in their company and things like that, right? So, I said number one rule is, are we scheduling it? Because if we're not scheduling it, you're probably not going to do it, right?
Right. Well, and ain't that the truth for family time?
Right? If you don't schedule it, you're not going to do it. You come home and you plop on the couch and you didn't schedule anything with your family. You're probably just going to float through the rest of the evening, and then 10 o'clock is here Everybody's living in their own separate bedrooms. The kids are in the video games. You're watching TV. The wife is in the bedroom watching her TV. Next thing you know, you're like, well, this isn't even a family anymore. We're just three individuals living together because we haven't really scheduled our time as a family. And that's something for Thaddeus, as he has those young child. Remember that you got a lot of obligations because leading that family, you got to schedule your time to make sure that, is it a boy or girl? What'd you have?
We ended up having a baby boy.
Well,
Yeah.
there he's going to need a lot of time on the ice rinks and all kinds of stuff you do up there in Canada. Hunt moose or whatever you guys do.
Well, we do hunt moose. Yeah, we do hunt moose, elk, and deer in our household. So he'll be learning all of that. But it's funny because as the show's going on, my wife sent the pictures. She's at Staples and he's climbing on the boxes of paper, as because he's into the climbing mode right now. But you are right, and like let's touch on the personal side of things too. And we opened the show with that, and now it's kind of coming full circle back to that. But if you don't take the priority of your family, you don't put that in there, we can get carried away, and next thing you know, it's something actually that it's called. There's a couple called the Gottmans, and they have a great book. Actually, they have two books. One of them is the 7 Principles of a Healthy Marriage. But one of them is this turn towards each other, turn away for each other in this bid for affection. And we see it a lot. And by the way, my relationship isn't perfect on this. I mean, we still do this, but we're more acutely aware of it because of this aspect of things. When you're sitting there and you use the example, the wife is in the other room watching TV, the husband is over here, kids are over here. If the wife is looking at her phone and she says, "Ooh," and she starts talking about something that she sees on the phone, and the husband goes, "Uh-huh," and goes right back to what he's doing, or vice versa. It doesn't have to be the husband that's doing it. It could be the wife that does this as well. Where the easy scenario there would be like, okay, well, pause whatever the heck you're doing, ask them a question about something that they just brought up, and now you have a turn towards each other moment versus a turn away from each other, and it actually builds strengths within that. So it's something that I know that we still do in our household. I did want to drop that nugget because the show just isn't always about business. Can be about personal stuff.
Well, it will affect if your personal life is not stable, your business life won't be stable either. I mean, it's going to affect. How many times have we seen, you got all the people out there listening to this? How many times have you seen a coworker, or if you're an owner of a company, an employee, that everything seemed like it was on cruise control until his wife started creating issues with, he's not paying enough attention with his family, like we're talking about, and all of a sudden she's requesting that he ask for less hours, or so then it comes in, and then maybe even get a different job. Or so I tell you right now, guys, a lot of times when people say, "Why did he quit my business?" He seemed like he loved working here, and he might have. But I had a guy, I'll tell you right now, back in the 90s, I had when I first learned about how to make these premium mid-range economy options that we teach, it turned my business around, right? I told you I'm not sure if you remember this, but I said I was in debt by $250,000 in 1991. But after I learned how to do what we teach today, which is premium mid-range economy options that are relevant to people, that it turned it around, and I was debt-free by 1994. And I had a guy named Dan Rudnick who worked for me. And this guy was selling like $69,000 a week. And I was like, I'd never seen this before. I was like, holy crap, this guy, now he took the material that I'm teaching. He's like the master of it. And he just like, give me more hours. We had a performance pay, and he was making paychecks of, $10,000 a week at some point, and I'm like, Jesus, I've never been happier to pay somebody $10,000 a week, because he's bringing in $100,000 a week or whatever, so it was really good, but then all of a sudden he came in one day, and I mean, everything was like, yeah, with Dan and we're going to freaking fly with Dan. And all of a sudden he came in one day and he had tears in his eyes. He goes, "Joe, I got to tell you something. You changed my life, and I'll never forget you." I said, "What are you talking about, Dan?" He goes, "Yeah, my wife gave me this morning. She threw the divorce papers on my desk and said, either you quit that job or you sign these papers. That's your choice." Now, I had no idea about this, right?
Yep.
So we lost a guy who was selling roughly $69,000 average per week, because I was just like, yeah, keep giving him more jobs. He kept asking for him. I should have limited that. Look, after that experience, I'm like, you know what? That's it. As the owner of a company, I'm in control of the energy of our company, both the family energy and the work energy. And when you get enough out of somebody, you got enough out of somebody, right? Don't get greedy and say, just keep milking that golden cow, because that cow will break down, and you're going to wind up it's going to be a big hit to your company, like it was to mine. I wound up losing. Everybody else was just feeding that guy leads because he was selling everything, and now he's gone. Like no notice. Just I can't work one more day here. It came in on a Wednesday, and that's it. What about the jobs you sold? No, you have to figure it out, Joe. I'm like, oh shit. So so all that kind of stuff, right? So I learned after that. It's like, you know what, 45 hours is what we're looking at, guys. Anybody who goes over 45, we got to have a good excuse for that. We got to have something that's, if you do 52 or 56 hours, then next week you're getting off. You're going to be 38 hours, 36. We try to control the energy and we try to be cognizant of the people at home. Give them, like, if somebody worked 50 hours, send her some flowers, send her a gift card, send her, do something for the family, the company should not just give the guy his overtime and stuff like that, but also let's reward the family because they contributed by giving us that time of that person. We should be cognizant of that person and not just look at he got his paycheck. That's good enough. Well, it's not good enough for the wife. We didn't acknowledge her contribution that she let us have him for that 60 hours or whatever. So if you do go to the bank and do those 60 hours, I know you're going to do it even if I tell you not to, but go ahead and do it. But then do it. But then, reward the people at their home to let them know that we appreciate that effort that you made. Because I tell you what, you guys know, Thaddeus can tell you. He's got a young baby at home. The real person working is his wife taking care of the baby while he's doing this kind of crap. If you said, "Hey, Daddy, you sit home with the baby, and I'll go to the office. I'll take the vacation with the whiskey, and you just take care of the baby." Holy shit, things would change. It'd be a game changer. So, we're all fortunate to have that. We got to remember to be thankful to have that and to share that gratitude in an honest, committed way. And I think that we can do that not just in our own families, but with the other families who are serving our company as well. So they're connected. Evan, is what I was trying to say there. The short, long story short, which is too late, but which is to say that the family life is connected to the business life. There's not really two lives there. It's all together connected. And if we don't acknowledge and reward everybody who contributed, not just the person who's contributing, but their family as well, we're going to be in trouble.
Well, and to make a long story longer, one of your pure motives that you teach is great customer service is selling the customer what it is that they really want and what it is that they really need. And when you flip that around and being a business owner and taking care of your people, that's exactly what it is. It's selling your team on what it is that they really want and what they really need, not more than what they need. It's not trying to sell them something that they don't need. And, in this case of your employee that you lost, you gave them more hours than what they even thought they wanted, but because of what they needed was more time with their family. So I think it's beautiful how the two just intertwine so closely between being a business owner and just being a great salesperson.
Well, you brought up a saying I say a lot to salespeople. Both salespeople come to me and it's like, my internal staff is not supporting me, and I think we need to get somebody who helps me better. And like, we got to fire this girl in the office because she's screwing with my commissions or whatever. Or the owner's like, my guys, they're not as loyal as they like them to be. They're always, they bitch about their coworkers in a way.
Right.
And I always tell people this. I'm like, listen, you are good at selling your company to the public. So the public, you're good at selling equipment, you're good at selling the brand to the public, but you're not good at selling the brand and your service to your internal clients, who are your employees and their families. So there's two sales that every business got to make. One is to branding for the public and acknowledging the brand by what you guys do, taking the brand, having people convert it into a lead, and then executing the lead with what I do, which is after the doorbell rings, we sell people and we execute what we promised in the brand and the promise and the marketing. And then we have to make sure that there's also the part where the internal team has got to be sold on what we're doing is the right thing to do. And we have to be able to sell them too. So I always tell the salespeople, so listen, you're selling your customers really good, but you got to sell your coworkers to do the job the right way for you as well. And how do you do that? I said, well, the same way you sell a normal customer. You you bring sunshine to them and tell them you appreciate and give gratitude for what they're already doing, and then you ask and request for ask their opinion about a new thing you thought of that you think that they would be good at, and can you get their help on it? And then they most likely are going to help you if you just are nice about it, and you start with a magic moment and tell people how much you appreciate it, and then tell them I got a new idea that we could try. I'd like to try where you'd be a key part of it, and you could lead us on this if you want to. And would you help us with this? Yeah, I'll help you. And next thing you know, they're doing what you want them to do, right? And you sold your team on doing what you want them to do. Because whenever I hear owners say, like, how do you get your guys to do this? Or how do you get your office to do this? I'm like, that's somebody who doesn't know how to sell their internal staff. Like, they're afraid of selling their own employees on something. Does that make sense? Like that kind like most people don't hire me. When people don't hire me, it's not because they don't believe in me. I think pretty much when you call me, you believe in me. Sometimes they don't believe in their people. Like, my guys will never do this. It's like, well, that's your job, and my job is to help sell your guys. I'm not here to teach your guys. I got to sell the service that I do to your guys so they want to do what I teach, and that's it too. So my job isn't just to teach people; it's to make sure that it's fun to come to the classes, and you're getting victories and you're getting celebrations out of it. Because if nobody gets celebration and fun and they're laughing in the class, then nobody wants to come to it, right? So that's it. So my job is to make it fun to come to classes. Your job is to make it fun to come to the classes too, and reward the people for coming to them. Don't make it like something that you're forcing people to do, or something that they gotta want to do. But of course, that's our job to make people want to do what we want them to do, not their job. Nobody starts out like wanting to get trained on something. You have to show them the benefits of it, and just like make them feel good about it. So that's it.
Help them
learn how to sell your internal team as well as the external customers. That's a big part.
No, you have to help them connect the dots between.
That could be the title of this whole thing. When you put it up there, it'd be like, learn how to sell your internal team as well as your external customers. Right?
There it is.
Yeah, Mallory,
you work it out.
Yeah.
You're the wordsmith, Thaddeus. You take charge of that.
No, we have one of our top team members who sits on the back end. She's like definitely taking notes. She just put that in the private chat, so she helps us out with everything here and makes our lives amazingly easy because she's awesome at what she does. I do want to transit. I got a couple things that I can in ways that I want to take this. I think Evan, you probably do as well. I'm like universal truths, magic moments. Those are at least my two. However, I do want to get into the random question generator first. And so this is probably favorite part of the show. And Joe, it might have changed from when you were on. We actually give you a choice of 3 questions. We're not going to tell you the question in advance, though. You just have to choose what's behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. So you're up. What door do you want to open?
Door number 3.
Door number 3. What uncommon thing would you like to see become more common?
That's a good one. I think what's uncommon, what I like to see become common would be.
And this, by the way, could not be business related. This could be like personal related too.
Yeah, I think what I like to see it more common is that people. It's uncommon for actually people to speak up and talk to each other when you meet somebody new who you don't even know. I think some of the best conversations, the best fun I've ever had on vacation. Like, I was on vacation to UK and went to France, went to UK for a week, France for a week, and UK. And it's like we don't know anybody, so I'm forced to talk to strangers. And we made some of the best relationships with people that I never met before, and that made it just so much fun talking to new people and creating new relationships, right? So I think that's the thing I'd like to see more common is like, don't just make all the relationships through your cell phone or through your computer. When you see real people, talk to them. And I say, appreciate the effort of the average person who is serving you. And that's the best way to start it. To say, you see somebody taking care of their kid, you say, can I just tell you something? Your daughter's lucky to have a mom like you. Or, you know what, can I just say something? We're from the United States. I want to say how fortunate we feel to be in this restaurant with the kind of service you're providing. I teach customer service. I tell people, and you're doing amazing. And I'm going to put this on Facebook. Oh no! And then they start talking about, tell me about your business, and I tell them about my business. They tell me about this one, and we're just having a great time, right? And those are the things that make those things you're going to remember about the experiences we have in life. are the people that we get to meet and talk. But when you just like, here's the thing about it. You ever see somebody who goes to France and they take a picture of the Eiffel Tower, but there's no person in the picture? Like, don't you hate people who take pictures of places where there's no people in the picture? It's like, so what? I could just go on Wikipedia and look that up. I don't need you to take a picture of it and put it on Facebook. It's like, it's the fact that you're in the picture that makes it special, and you and your family. If I had Thaddeus taking pictures, I want to see him and his son and his wife, and I want to see I want to see them when they go to Montreal or wherever you guys go around up there. You guys go to Edmonton or
Nobody goes to Edmonton. Nobody goes to Edmonton.
You go to Kamloops for a weekend or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Like
Close
that.
by. The shoe swaps just to the east of it. But you are right. I mean, like you like those when you ran into random people and striking up a conversation. Like I think back when we were we did in 2019 a trip to Greece and Croatia. And one of the things that still stands about one of my memories is in Croatia, we just randomly started talking to these people as we were walking down a pathway. That was it. Randomly started talking to them. Turns out they're Canadians, and they were from Saskatchewan. And
Nice.
We went to this. They were going like, yeah, we're going to check out this cave bar. Do you guys want to come? We're like, sure. So we went to this cave bar, and then through conversation, they ended up knowing a really good friend, like of mine. And so we take a picture of all four of us, and we just send it to the friend. That's all we did. Just send it. And then like sparked up this totally different, conversation because we all knew the same person. Like, how small of a world is that you're in fucking Croatia and you meet some random people from a province beside you that know the same person, right? But we wouldn't have had that if we didn't have genuine conversations and genuine compliments just with people as you're walking by.
Yeah, because that's where opportunity exists in life.
Yes.
The crossroads of opportunity is one human talking to another human, wanting to learn more about them and each other, and then that creates opportunity. Because that's where opportunity. That's the heartbeat of opportunity. Is that reaching out? And by the way, we don't have to go to France or UK or Croatia or anywhere to Greece. We could do it right here. We could do it right in your own house. You could go when you go to your Starbucks or you go to Tim Hortons in that area. You could do it up there, right? So. It could be anywhere. So just keep that in mind that, I think most people think that people don't want to be bothered. Truthfully, I think everybody's is very pleasantly surprised when somebody is interested in something they're doing, regardless if it's a complete stranger or not. And there, is it risky? Well, maybe a little bit, but I would say think about all the things you've achieved in life, that people you didn't know before, that if you are married or you have a significant other, there's a time you didn't know that person. You had to take a chance to say, I wonder if she wants to go out for lunch or something. And I'll just ask her if she's married. Well, low key, are you married? It's like, I used to young people's language, right? Hey, low key, are you married, dude? It's like, no.
You don't see you wearing a ring on your finger, so
I'm good. I'm married. Yeah, I'm married.
I don't even know where my ring is.
So you reach out there anyway. You wouldn't get to know anybody if you didn't. Right? You wouldn't be married. You wouldn't have children. You wouldn't have anything if we didn't. It's like one of the keys of life. Again, universal keys of life is that our opportunities are from other people. It's not from furnaces and ACs and stuff like that. It's the people. I would say heating and air conditioning is worthless without people. If it doesn't, there's nobody in the house. There's no need to heat or cool it. There's nothing there. So you got to be good with people. I know a lot of HVAC guys think my only job is to fix furnaces and ACs. Your job is to fix families too. The comfort of the family. It's also your job. Makes sense.
Well, I was going to say, would that be universal truth or magic moment? But you already answered my question. That is a universal truth. So I'm curious. Like I really am. What other sorts of universal truths does Uncle Joe have?
Oh my God, there's so many of them that it's stunning. I would say one of them is your ego is not your amigo. I always say to people, which is that like when that person brought to me that I'm America Server Sales Coach and I coached 12,000 people and I got my own employee telling me that you're not supported. It's like I could be like, don't you know who I am? It's
right.
It's not going to be a very good way of fixing it. I just acknowledge it and say, you know what? I felt a little humiliated that I was unaware. I had a blind spot I wasn't aware of, and I thanked them. I think my first inclination now, whenever I am caught off guard, is to thank people for bringing it to my attention. That I tell them it's a blind spot for me. I have different words and phrases I've created there, but that's one. I think that is your ego the ego gets in the way of a lot of different things. Like, like calling me, your ego might get in the way. But like, I don't want to call Joe Crisara because I already know all the stuff he's talking about, type of thing. It's like, you might, but you might get a little extra if you did talk to me. But I think when people think I'll figure it out on my own, or I'll do it myself, because your ego, like, it's like, I got to do this myself as opposed to have somebody help me with it. You're gonna be like, if they called you two, it's going to fast forward them 10 years in failure that you guys have gone through these years of failure to get to where what works. Why would you want to make that failure and just eliminate the things that don't work, and they can just tell you the things that do? Evan and Thaddeus can tell you that, and I can tell you that too. So, your ego gets in the way of that sometimes. So I think the ego is one of the biggest problems, or the thing, the impediments. Like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. Then they'll think that I'm bothering them. Like, well, what do you care what people think about you? Right? It's like the fact that you care what people think about you is your ego again. You're worried about, I hope they think this about me. It's like, here's what I can tell you. I give my unconditional friendship to everybody, but I don't have a need to be accepted by anybody. I accept myself. I don't need you to tell me I'm good. I know when I'm not good, I know when I'm good. I look in the mirror and I see that. I don't need you to tell. If you tell me, you just, like, when he told me I wasn't good, I'm like, yeah, you got it. You nailed it. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get back on track. It's just like feedback to get myself back on track. And if you acknowledge it and say that's okay, and I'm human like everybody else is, and I'm just going to move forward and go this direction. 10,000 people don't know about it until I told you guys. but I want to share that. I want to share that because I want you to think that anybody gets off track. We all get off track, and don't let your ego keep you off track, because sometimes your ego is thinking, no, I'm going to keep working hard at this, the thing that's not working, because you're so damn determined to make something that sucks work, as opposed to saying, maybe I should just get on a different track that does work better. Does that make sense, Rick? So I think the ego is one of those. Ego's not your amigo is one of my favorite sayings. I should trademark that one, right? That's a good.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
I definitely want to acknowledge. I want to acknowledge you for one, having the humility to step back and acknowledge your blind spot there with that employee. But I also really want to acknowledge them for having the courage to step up and say, hey, I'm not feeling supported here in this way, in the same way, right? Like, that shows real leadership and that ability to lead up. I was just listening to Jocko Willick's book, not the first one, the ownership one, the leadership one, Dichotomy of Leadership. Yeah, I was listening to it with my 11-year-old son. He wanted to listen to it. So that idea of leadership is not a top-down approach, it's a bottom-up approach as well. And to have someone on your team who's willing to step up in that way shows real courage, real leadership. And it really shows that you've done a fantastic job of leading top people to be able to have that conversation with you so that the organization as a whole gets better.
You know how lucky I am, because what's the other alternative? Just say, he's not going to listen to me, I'm just going to quit and just give my notice. And then here's what guys. You got this problem when people quit, give you a notice, and don't want to talk about why they're leaving. When you have an employee does that, that's your blind spot. You just caught your blind spot. That's the other end of the spectrum that would happen. And so, believe me, you do need to thank the person who did reach out and have the courage to do that, which I do that. I definitely, I'm fortunate to have that person as an employee, and I definitely didn't want to lose him in our company. And definitely, I had the blind spot. I acknowledged it. I'm making efforts to move forward, scheduling my time with him now. And and I'm doing it in a way that with some humility in that process. And then I think we're getting back to firm footing again in about 6 days later. We're getting back to some firm footing now. And I think we both we're optimistic about the way things are going right now. So that's all we can do, and is get to that point, right? And that's it. But I would say, I'm lucky to have that, because if you explore the other alternative, it's somebody just drops their notice on you and says, I'm leaving. I found a different job. They tell you it pays more. That's the reason, so you don't feel bad. Like, here's what they should have said. Yeah, I'm leaving because you suck as a leader. But but they don't want to get into that discussion. Instead, they just say, I found another job, better opportunity. I'm going to go there. That's the code word for your leadership sucks, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So is there a way to do great exit interviews?
it's hard, right? Because you have to have this. I'd say most people don't do exit interviews because they're afraid of hearing the truth. And I think internally, a lot of us know the truth already. And I think if you did an exit interview with yourself and interviewed, how about this? Here'd be an easier exit interview, Thaddeus, would be to say, interview yourself to say, did I really train the person? Did I give them a fair chance to learn what I wanted them to know, to make sure that they took the time, let them graduate, and tested them on what I trained them? Number two, if I did train them, did I make time and schedule time to coach them when they were off track, or did I just assume that they should get back on track on their own? Did I support them by keeping them on track or giving them feedback? And then number three, did I give them accountability to celebrate the great things they did for us? Or did I just assume that we're going to keep doing those great things, right? So I think if you did your own, I think the exit interview would be more honest if you did it with yourself. You probably get a more honest answer, Thaddeus, is if you did it with yourself more than you do with the employee.
Yep.
And I think it's a little bit more awkward with the, so I've never, with the external employees that have left, people who left us, and I fired, if I release them, or they quit. I'd never really felt like that. To me, was something I was going to really learn from it, because it could be too painful. Really, it opens up a door that you don't know what's going to happen. And I just felt more in control if I just interviewed myself with the exit interview and get the answer get the answer to be honest with myself. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
That's what I feel about it. But
yep.
It may not be right.
Like you have to, if somebody, and look, there could have been nothing that you could have done to prevent that person from leaving. They just, their time was up there, right? And they wanted to move on. You could have had everything there. But if you have an honest internal reflection, you're going to know more than anything that's there. And just by asking those right questions to yourself, and introspective reflection can go a long ways. I think one of the things that I really like to do for introspective reflection is quiet time in the day. Taking time where and I use it when I walk the dog, because I can put the phone in the pocket. I can do nothing other than walk and just focus on that, but actually think about things. And when you can sit there and you can think about things in your quiet time and quiet those things down, now you can have that great introspection. But asking yourself those pointed questions when somebody leaves is also a great added incentive to that introspective reflection.
I think it's mindfulness, right? That you're looking at there. You have to be mindful of the way, self-awareness. Am I interacting in my marriage? Am I interacting in my business life with my employees and things? It's easy to say. Sometimes it's harder to do, because the doing of it takes scheduling of it. That's the part that we all want to have flexibility on our schedule. The problem is that when we have too much flexibility, we drop some balls, and next thing you know, we're beating ourselves up because we didn't take care of everything we needed to take care of. So that's really one of those things. I think scheduling whatever you're going to try to do is the thing I think is the key to it.
Love it.
Good stuff. Any more questions? Or we
had a question that came in from one of the viewers. What are 3 books that you would recommend for starting a great team?
It's a couple. Starting a great team. That's a good question. I have a lot of good books to recommend. One thing I would recommend, if there's sort of like one of the best books, I think, which is you could comb through the book several times and come back and read it again and get a different message. One of those kind of books where it's like, it seems like the first time you read it, the second time you read it, because now you know more. You know more the second time. Because you read the second time, is a different meaning now. Is called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, which is 67 principles of success. A lot of them have to do with teams. Actually, one of the best books I've read on leadership is the book by Phil Jackson, from who I forget the name, what he called the title of that book. But Phil Jackson wrote a book, who's coach of the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers. It's an excellent. When I read the book, I could not put it down. It goes over things like the formation of a circle, like not realizing that when we do training in our live training, we have round tables. As a result of this book, back when I read it and hearing about what he preached about it, he believed in getting the team in a circle when he taught them or when he trained them, because he wanted the team to be able to interact with each other, not sit forward facing the teacher. He wanted the team to interact with each other when they were learning lessons together. And he said it's far more effective to have round tables when you train people for communications technical training, you can face them forward because it is an individual thing. But personal interaction and communication, better off at the round tables. So that book by Phil Jackson is one of the best books I've ever read. I forget the name. Is it?
Was that more than a
11
game
rings?
or 11 rings?
11 Rings. That's the one. Yeah.
What a
that's
cover!
the-
What a cover on that book! I just
Right?
want to say, I used to do
it's-
some Kindle publishing back in the day, and like I look at this cover, and it's
Yeah.
literally just 11 championship rings.
He would
that are on there.
he made sure that every person on that team, even the trainers, had an assignment above and beyond their job. So if you're doing personal training, he gave you a book and, hey, read this chapter and tell me what you think of this chapter. Everybody in the Chicago Bulls had their own little, he gave them a book on every airplane flight. Here's a book I want you to read. He wouldn't say read the whole book. He'd say, read the third chapter and, Scottie Pippen, and let me know what you think. And he would, and that would and that's how he created not just superstar basketball players, but superstar people who could be interviewed by the press and had responsibility for the team, not just for themselves, right? And today you don't see enough of that. You see everybody's out for themselves. The team is second place. You got to look at it this way. I do agree that when you see people on the company who are worried about themselves more, really, if you take care of the team, you're also taking care of yourself. That's the big thing. Got to remember that. But I think those are the two best things I've seen on it. I would probably say that would be great. But truthfully, as a lot of the books I do is just how to persuade people and learn how to get people to do what you'd like them to do and become the kind of person that people would like to. Leadership is one of the things I love learning about as well there too. But I guess if you're leading, you're also building that team as well there too. Obviously, the book by John Maxwell, Leadership by John Maxwell, is also a great book on leadership, which I think also kind of leads to building teams as well. That's what I would say.
There you go.
I'm really curious as to what books Phil Jackson recommended to Dennis Rodman that he was able to get him to read.
Right. He probably just gave him a paragraph. Just a paragraph, Dennis. That's all I need.
One sentence, please.
That's what he said he did. You read the book. He says, I only gave people what I knew they were capable of. I didn't give them, you wouldn't give a whole book to Dennis Rodman. You just give them, and there's interesting stuff about Dennis Rodman, about Dennis Rodman and Jordan. And the thing is, you would think, why is Michael Jordan going to read a book or read a chapter? Well, if you don't give it to him, he's not gonna, because he's testing him to see if you're going to be. The whole team is reading a chapter on this. You're reading this chapter. He'd give a team one book. You're reading the first chapter. You get the second one. So then we'd have a book report later on. They'd all just talk about it, and then they'd be all talking at the plane flight. They'd just be talking about the book, and it was organic. It was not something he had a class on. He just. Gave him something to talk about beside chasing women and drinking whiskey and things like that they probably were doing when they're on the road, So, that's it.
That's it. I love it. Well, to get a hold of Joe, I want to make sure that we plug you and get all of your information out here. Of course, we got servicemvp.com, which you'll definitely want to be checking out that, as well as the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/servicemvp, because they do have an event coming out next spring.
Oh, did we lose him? Event coming out next spring. I don't know what the event is.
That's okay. We're doing a thing. We're doing a thing called True Grit. Evans frozen there. We have True Grit.
Go. He's back.
There we go.
True Grit 2023. Which is an interactive learning. We're probably going to have some speakers this time around, but basically it's a short lesson on stage for about 30 minutes. And then the entire crowd breaks out into different escape rooms. You have to get through 4 different escape room experiences to get a badge. So we do that twice. There's twice a day that gets done, or actually 3 times a day we do that. And then everybody's having fun, interacting together. You're learning something you can take home and bring for your whole team. The office staff, field staff, leadership team, and everybody's involved. So it's not something that's just made for leaders or owners. It's for everybody. So you can bring the whole team, and we encourage it. It's like a carnival for heating and air conditioning and plumbing and electrical contractors, all the different things that happen. We create little vignettes on how you're going to get through it, and make it sometimes it's a puzzle. Sometimes it's you got to put the things in the right order. Sometimes it's electronic things we do. So we play a video and say, what did you hear in this video, type of thing. So we have a lot of cool things that we do on this. And it's last year was extreme. We had 200 people come to it in San Antonio. And this year we're going to be in Las Vegas doing it in in early March. We haven't put it out there yet, but look for it. It will be announced on Facebook and everywhere else probably by September 1st. But definitely it's going to be an exciting event. And we also have our full range of seminars called Total Immersion for office, field, and leadership as well. If you go to TISummit.com, it's letter TISummit.com for our training we do there. We have a full year, over 36 events that we do all year long. So that is a constant live education if you want to go to that. So that's all there. Other than that, thank you guys for inviting me. I just appreciate you, and had a great time talking.
And I do have to say, my favorite place to get me some daily dose of Joe is on TikTok, where you can find him at Pure Motive Joe. Definitely check that out, because he's dropping a ton of gold, ton of nuggets on there. So I love watching you do what you do. And of course, you can reach out to him on email as well, joe@servicemvp.com, where you can get more information about being a part of some of his classes, being a part of having Joe come out to your team as well, because they do on-sites and trainings and things like that too. So we do have one final question here for you, Joe. And I did ask you this last time, and it did stump you for a minute. So hopefully you've got a better answer this time. But what is one question you wished people asked you more, but they don't?
Good question. People wish to ask me more. Probably I would say about where do you get the best? Where do you get the best pizza? That's my best question. Was yes, more of it. That's where I bet that probably that one. Yeah.
Where do you get the best pizza?
And is this dependent on the city? Do you know every single city's best pizza, or is this it?
Well, some cities some cities just don't have any good pizzas. Like Los Angeles doesn't really have any good ones. So the entire, you think it's 12 million people, you think it's 12 million people that could find a good pizza around here, but no, there's some that are better than others, but not as good. But if you go to Chicago, in Lou Malnati's pizza, that is the best. That's top. Either the thin crust or the pan pizza is really good there.
The Chicago deep dish.
Chicago, if you like the deep dish, that's for tourists. But the thin crust is the thin crust is good too. Though they make it with a buttered cornbread crust. It's just like good. That's good, very good. So Lou Malnati's, MALNATIS, Lou Malnati's pizza. They have it out in the suburbs and also in the city. So if you do go there, tell them Uncle Joe sent you, and enjoy it, and bring 2 stomachs, because it's good. You won't be able to stop eating it. I'll tell you that. That's good. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Next time I'm in Chicago, I'll definitely be looking for it. Right?
Go there.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you so much for all that you do for the industry. Thank you for joining us today. And we truly appreciate the impact that you make on a daily basis with the industry, and making it better day in and day out. So thank you. Cheers to you, my friend. And until next time.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.